Hiya, and welcome back to Brian Breaks Character. I'm really glad you're here today. I'm also frightened that you're here today because I'm going to kind of spill the beans, I guess, on something that I've hinted at on a couple episodes here, but haven't been super forthcoming about because it's super vulnerable for me and scary. I'm afraid even if I say it out loud right now, I might not come through with it. So I'm going to spit it out, and it is that I am writing a book. And I felt the shivers go down my spine as I said that out loud. So I've been working on this book for a while, and I'm going to share a bit about the book a little later in today's podcast episode. It's just you and me here today, so I can get super vulnerable and honest with you. I mean, I'm just, staring at a camera and a microphone right now, so it feels super safe, but there's the other part of me that knows you're out there listening. So what I want to share about the book, I'm going to share towards the end of the podcast episode today. But what I wanted to get to is, this month we're talking a lot about birthing something big or saying yes to your calling in a bigger way. And so what I'm going to talk about today is one of the things that I call my signature process in the way that I coach people. And this is specifically the coaching that we'll be doing inside of the mastermind. And I wanted to use this as a way, you can apply this to whatever that thing is you might be thinking about. Maybe you're writing a book. Maybe you want to start a dance studio or start a self-tape studio, or you want to write a film or get your film into more festivals, or you want to go big with your one-person show, or something that you want to put into the world. You want to start your own coaching practice, right? And what I know about when those ideas come to us is it is freaking vulnerable. Sometimes it can feel unreasonable to say yes to it. And what comes up pretty quickly is, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to look good at it before I've even started. Or another way to say that might be, to be successful, I need to look successful. Like it might be like, I've got the perfect Instagram and exactly 0 clients, right? Or even it can be as insidious as, in order to write a book, the way that I write that book has to look like XYZ123, or the way that I write my film has to look like the way that I've only been the way that I've taught. And I think what you and I both know is the things that revolutionize us, the things that blow our minds, are things that let go of the status quo. I'm not saying you have to be a disruptor to be artistic or be a disruptor just to be creative, but I want to be very mindful of the idea of when something, the more you, whatever it is you're creating is, the more people are attracted to it. Unless you're trying to make another, like Lululemon, and it's like a big company, right? Like we got all clothes that look kind of the same, and that they're going to fit like this, and these are the fabrics, and like no shade of Lululemon, I wear it all the time, right? But that's not who you're trying to be. You're trying to make a mark of some sort, right? Some kind of mark or impact in the world. And so when we drift from ourselves, when we drift towards that which we think is successful or looks successful, we are inspiring ourselves to stay small. We're inspiring ourselves to water down our unique and creative ideas. The problem here is you can end up making a beautiful Instagram feed that has nothing to really do with you, or create a business that doesn't actually satisfy you or get anywhere closer to the impact you're trying to have. Great. It kind of looks like a self-tape studio, but I really wanted it to have an impact so that when people come here, they feel safe and cared for and taken care of, which isn't the same as just wanting to create a self-tape studio, right? I made it look like this other person's because theirs was successful. And so I find this insidious, I think it's like comparison inspiration to ruin us. Because then we retreat from that big idea because suddenly we're not familiar with it anymore. It doesn't look good anymore. And we get on this endless pattern. I'm sure that, raise your hand if this is you, or, raise your hand to the heavens. If you say like, oh yeah, I've been inspired and I've walked towards my big idea and then I walked it back, or I got closer to it and then I walked away because I started to not like the way it was looking, or it started to not make me feel good. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, where we have this inspiration, we walk towards it, we lose our stamina because it's not looking good anymore. Or it's not looking good to us anymore. It's looking like someone else's business. Or it's looking like somebody else's inspiration. So what I found to help my clients in the way that I work with people is something that gives me a lot of joy, and I hope it'll give you some joy too, and tons of permission, which is to be a vulnerable rebel around your process. So what does that mean? Being a vulnerable rebel, to kind of shut down all these voices, is to say to yourself, okay, great. I know there's all these other businesses or people who do it that way, and they make this much money, and they have this many clients, or they have this great film that's going to all these festivals. Cool. I know that that exists. I'm not going to pretend I'm not on this planet right now. But I'm also going to honor that me doing my thing probably means letting go of looking perfect or being perfect. And it might look like flying in the face of what's normal. I might really need to be a rebel here, right? I might need to do this in a really weird way. My system around this might look different than anybody else's. My dance studio might be a class that's taught half on Zoom and half in real life, or like to really give ourselves that permission to go big or small, but just to do it in a rebellious way, to fly in the face of what we think it has to look like, right? And this can be tough to do, so I'm going to give you some steps here, right, to kind of get started. But first, I just want you to grasp onto the idea that being rebellious will help you. And I want to just make sure you hear me say this. There's like a caveat here. It's not just be rebellious to be rebellious. I'm using the word rebel to give you that gigantic, huge, billboard-sized permission slip to honor that which you really want to do and that which you really want to create. We need that. Sometimes you need somebody right next to you saying, it's okay, allow me to be that right now in your earbuds, right? Like you have permission to do this your own way. This isn't just rebellion for rebellion's sake. The rebellion part is like letting go of other ideas, saying yes to what you're truly aching to give birth to, right? So here's some steps to get you started with this. The first one is throw out all of the ideas of how to do the thing, right? So one of the ways I say this is start doing it your own way. If at first you don't succeed, try again, but in your own way and in your way that delights and energizes you. So what might that mean? So let's pretend you are going to write a film. Or let's not use writing because I'm going to talk about my book in a minute. Let's use like you're going to start a dance studio, okay? And you're like, okay, I'm going to rent a space and we're going to do it every other Wednesday, and I'm going to teach you this kind of style, and it's going to be jazz contemporary, and I want 12 people in my class, and da-da-da-da-da. And we might run to the models we've seen in the past. Well, I happen to know a dance teacher who does 3 or 4 retreats over the course of the year, and they go to locations all over the world. And she developed it first by having short Zoom classes where she teaches specific dances, and then they get to all come together in real life at these retreats a few times a year. Now, I would never have imagined that if I just sat there and said, make it look like every dance class I've ever been to. I also would probably have been like, well, Zoom can't work. I could never teach on Zoom, right? So that space to first throw out the ideas of what you've seen in the past and to move towards what's important to you. So for this dance teacher, she really wanted community to be a piece of this. So she built the community online, and then she took that community to retreats all over, right? So what you want to think about here is, how did she get there? What delighted and energized her? What made her go, oh, I'm excited about this? So as you're thinking about writing that film, as you're thinking about creating that self-tape studio, launching your stationery business, what delights and excites you? Oh, I want to go to like conferences where people set up their tables and I've got my stationery sitting there, and I want to talk to people about why I chose the paper. Or I want to create at gift wrapping stations. I'm making this up right now, right? I want to be there and give notes to people that say to, from, so that they can see a little bit of what my business looks like. They get a taste of it when I'm doing that, right? So this are some ideas for you. Or maybe you want to be really of service, and your stationery company is going to be at like a food drive or something, and like you're going to give everyone who donates some kind of thank you card that's on your stationery to help publicize it, because it's important to you to have service be a part of your work. And these are just kind of peppering in some ideas. So the first step is throw out the ideas of how to do the thing. And I'm going to give you a quote here that I rely on very often. And this is from Madeleine L'Engle. She wrote A Wrinkle in Time, right? The quote she says is, inspiration usually comes during work rather than before it. So I'm going to say that again. Inspiration usually comes during work rather than before it. So many of us, myself included, will be like, well, I'll do that when I feel like it. Or I'll get started on my book when I get an idea or I'm inspired. I have to work when I'm inspired. And if that is the case, you're going to be sitting around a lot and not getting a lot done, because you and I both know it's hard to feel like it. The feel like it moments are like flashes. It's like lightning struck for a second, right? You and I both also know, or maybe I can get you to admit right now while you're listening to this podcast, that when you're working on something, when you're writing it, you're designing it, you're imagining it, you're putting on paper your ideas around it, more inspiration comes. And that's exactly what Madeline L'Engle is saying to us here. Inspiration usually comes during work rather than before it. My belief is the moment you start to make this real on the planet, whether that's writing it on a screen in your computer or a note in your phone or on a piece of paper, it becomes magnetic for other earthly thoughts to make it more real. You're translating that which is divine into real, which is why inspiration is going to strike the more you get it on paper, right? Now, second step in this process. So first, throw out the ideas of how to do the thing and be willing to find your own rebellious process to do it. Second step is make space to do the thing. So you and I both know, if I was like, you were like, I have this big idea, Brian. I can't wait to make it real. And I have to work 40 hours a week, and I don't want to, and I've got vacation coming, and I don't want to do it in the evenings, or I don't know if I can do it in the evenings. And like, you and I both know those are not excuses. That's real life. But to make space for it can look like, I am giving this thing 2 hours every Sunday, come hell or high water. Or to make this a little easier on those of you who might be striving for structure and then rebel against it. I understand what it's like to be creative. I'm giving this thing 2 hours of my time a week. I think I'll do an hour on Tuesday and an hour on Saturday, but I'm actually looking at my calendar to make space for the thing. And I want to be really mindful of the fact that making space for the thing might be actually doing some work or writing. It might also be imagining and dreaming, letting that divine have a voice. One of the ways that I think it's important to make space to do the thing is to remove the obstacles that will keep you from doing it. So I'll let you a little bit into my process here around the book. Is when I'm at home, the kitchen's right down the hallway. My dog is here. I got my fiance in the front of the house. He works from home at 2. A lot of nice, beautiful distractions. Also, I can get pissed off at him if he comes knocking on my door when I'm trying to work on it, right? A lot of distractions here. Might want to go to the kitchen and get myself a chip, have a little hummus, have a moment for myself, and oh, it's self-care, and I can disguise it as self-care because I'm hungry, and the thing never happens. Right? So make space to do the thing means also removing obstacles or distractions that keep you from doing it. When I'm writing, the phone is off. I have one tab open on my laptop, and I am sitting at a coffee shop. And let me tell you, every time I order my latte in Pasadena at Copa de Vida, which is where I love to sit, I will literally be like, I am giving such a huge gift to myself, and I'm aware of it. That is a delight and energizing moment. So making space to do the thing means removing obstacles. And then the next step of this process, so number 1, throw out the ideas of how to do it. Number 2, make space for when you're going to do it. Number 3 is notice what works and what brings the most output/result. So what does that mean? So I noticed, I know the answer is going to be for me going to the coffee shop. That's going to be a solution to all my problems. No, I was like, okay, I'm going to try going to the coffee shop. I think there's too many distractions here. There was a lot of ease in me trying again to see if it would work. So when I went to the coffee shop and I sat there, I was like, oh, cool. When I sit here, the distractions aren't here. I actually am seeing that I'm writing a page or 2 each time I do this. Oh, let me notice. When I give myself about 90 minutes, that means about 2 pages. Cool. Okay, good for me to know. So that if I'm predicting this chapter is going to take 20 pages, I can almost predict how much time it's going to take for me, right? So I'm noticing, what is the system? I'm suddenly noticing, oh, Brian, you've unlocked a system that satisfies your spirit. You love to get your latte. You love to sit there. You love to do the writing while you're there. And in a 90-minute session, you get 2 pages done. That's an entire system that I worked out by noticing what worked, right? I can also say this can happen in the afternoon. Writing for me, in the morning. I am way better writing in the morning than I am in the afternoon. So this thing needs to happen at 9 a.m., 8 a.m., right after the gym, something like that. So that's another part of the system. Because I've tried it 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and my brain is like applesauce. It's just not happening. So that's another thing that works. I'm noticing my system. All right, step 4 of this process, grant yourself permission to do it all the way. So again, there are days when I have a book coach that I'm working with, right? There are days and like I'm meeting with her tomorrow, for example. While I'm recording this, I'm thinking about that, right? And today, and it's 1:36 p.m. as I record this, and I'm meeting with her tomorrow. I'm like, shoot, I didn't get to write this morning. So, Madeline the Angle, I'm a little pissed at you, but I'm going to put my butt in a seat. I'm going to go to the coffee shop this afternoon, and I'm going to write for 90 minutes because we have a meeting tomorrow, and come hell or high water, it will get done. But the gift that I have given myself in terms of permission, because I worked out the process of throwing out the ideas, I tried again. I made space to do the thing by making space on my calendar this afternoon to go do it. I noticed what works and what doesn't. The permission I give myself now is I get to go, Brian, you're going to go to the coffee shop and you're going to write even though you know your brain might be a little applesauce, but it's going to mean something that you've done it. So I get to be in relationship with my work instead of being mad about the fact that it's the afternoon. I go, okay, great. Maybe you won't get 2 pages today because you're going to have that applesauce brain, right? So I hope I'm illustrating these 4 steps. I'm going to say them one more time just so they really land with you. If you've got that big idea, and I know you do, that other thing you're trying to birth right now, and you can, to let go the solution to trying to look successful, to be successful, to having it be perfect before it's even created, is to be a vulnerable rebel around your process. So, step 1, throw out the ideas of how to do the thing or do it the right way. Make space to do the thing in the way that works for you. Make the space on your calendar. Make the space on your desk, right? Notice, number 3, notice what works about your process. What produces the most output or the most of the result? Oh, Brian noticed he's not as good in the afternoon as he is in the morning, right? And then the 4th step is grant permission to do it all the way and to be in relationship with it, right? I'm going this afternoon. I'm going to get some done. Maybe now that I've talked about it so much with you, I'll even get those 2 pages done in the 90 minutes I'm giving myself, right? So I want to give you a little bit more about my rebellious process here because even more came from this as I worked with my coach. So one of the things, like as I'm thinking about being a writer, you know, the first step, I had this vision of like, okay, well, being a writer means that like I probably wear a tweed sweater and glasses, and there's a fireplace next to me, and like I'm giving you like Ernest Hemingway cable knit sweater vibes. And like that is what it means to be a writer. And like I better be reading a lot right now because writers have a really big vocabulary. And what am I reading to really inspire me? But I can't read books that are kind of similar to what I'm talking about because that'll confuse me. So that's part of what I need to have to make this be a good book. To come up with a good book, that has to be happening. Okay, cool. Next step of it was my coach has a very specific way that she uses Google Docs. And I was like, no, I do not like that way. It was not working for me, and I had to get really clear. I was like, oh, I like the document to be one long document, not multiple documents, because it helps me to backtrack and read and kind of give myself an on-ramp into the chapter that I'm reading, right? And that took a long time to figure out because I was just trying to stay organized. Organization is not always your friend. It is a form of resistance, taking up the time for you to be doing the thing. And that's what I was discovering for myself. Her desire to be organized was overriding my way of creativity. So we got really clear on that together. We kind of come up with a nice hybrid version of this, right? And then the other thing that we do together is, you know, I had this vision that as a writer, I need to write by myself. I need to sit there and sweat it out in my chair and like figure it out. And that's what it's going to be. And when we work together, many times I'm saying out loud as I type I'm speaking out loud the actual words that are going to be in this book and saying it out loud to her. So she's listening and I'm listening and I'm like, oh no, it's this word. And as we're working, we're editing in real time. That is not ever how I imagined I would write a book. I'm like, I need to go hole away in some cabin for 6 weeks, right? So all these ideas, right? This like it has to look this way for it to work. I had to walk through these steps. First, throw out the idea of this cable knit sweater. Throw out the idea of these Google Docs. Throw out the idea of having to write on your own, right? Make space to do it my way. So first of all, I was like, I'm going to wear what I'm going to wear. Not going to lie. When I go to the coffee shop, I like to wear a cute outfit because it makes me feel good. So I will put on a cute outfit, but that is to feel good. It is not because I need it. This afternoon, I'm probably not going to look that cute. I'm probably just going to go there, right? So please don't come to the coffee shop to say hi today. Now, when it comes to the Google Docs, it took a while for me to figure this out. As I was sitting there writing, I kept getting frustrated, opening up another document. I was like, why am I not delighted and energized by my process? Oh, I figured out I needed that on-ramp. So I threw out this idea, hey, I can't do those Google Docs. Let's make it into one Google Doc. This works better for me. What's the permission I need to keep going there, to keep saying yes to that idea, right? And then again, saying it out loud has been such a gift to me because again, writing by myself is not the vibe for me. That is absolutely not how I ever imagined that I would be writing. I'm going to talk it out loud and write at the same time. So I had to make space to say, great, that means you're probably going to do the coffee shop. And then when you come to your sessions with your coach, you're going to say some things out loud. Let's make a lot of space for that. Instead of her just being an editor, we're going to make sure that some of each of those sessions is open to y'all talking, to reading the book out loud, right? And then I go, great, that creates an output. I'm going to be giving myself permission to do it that way again and again. So I could today go to the coffee shop this afternoon, cranky because it's the afternoon, try to fight my way through 2 pages and then be like, we're going to go through all 2 pages and just edit those in our time together instead of knowing what I know about myself, which is I might not get 2 pages. It's going to be great for us to edit them and then also talk out loud and wear whatever the frick I'm going to wear to that coffee shop and having read 0 books before I get there. So nailing into your rebellious process is so important. I hope that this has inspired you a little bit. And for you to kind of get started with this, if this sounds like, just acknowledge the way you like to work. One thing about the way you like to work. Don't just don't get contagious for my coffee shop fantasy because I can't do all kinds of work there. There's only certain work I can do there, right? I can't get on Zoom and talk to someone on my team or coach someone on Zoom, right? I can only do this work there. So be mindful of what actually energizes you. Maybe it's always to have someone with you. And this is the exact process that I'll be working through inside of my mastermind. This is like the 3rd step inside of my signature process here. So if this excites you, if you've got that idea, you're already like, oh, I want to do this work. I'm ready to jump into this terrifying and exciting field of I can put this into the world and I want someone alongside me. I want a community of people who are operating at this level who are saying, this is important. My input, my impact on this planet is important. Then head on over to brianbreakscharacter.com/apply and we'll set up a call to see if you're fit for one of the spots in this mastermind. My wholehearted intention is that the people in this mastermind are embracing that which is unique about them and what is uniquely gifted to them to put into this world. And so I want to create the space where that can happen, create the accountability, the fierce accountability, and give you the know-how, how to go public with that thing. So if you're sitting on that tiny idea, you got that big idea that's screaming, anywhere on that continuum, this is a great place for you. All right. Thank you for listening today to this part of the process. Go out there, be rebels around what satisfies, energizes, and delights you so you can create the thing you were born to create. All right. I will see you next week. Be good. Bye-bye.